loves, welcome back to my channel. This week's video, we're going to be talking about all the books I read in January, everything that I hope to read in February, which, by the way, is one of the best lineups for a TBR I've ever had, and I'm so excited to tell you about. And then I'm also doing the 12 books from 12 creators challenge, and I need to pick one for February, so I thought the best way to do it was pop it in a little jar, pick one out and see what we end up with. So there's all of that to come in this week's video. Grab yourselves a drink, let's get cozy, let's talk books. So in the month of January, I read 11 books. 3 of these, by the way, were 5-star reads, which is pretty damn good. But some of these reads really had my head in a spin. Some of them I went in fully hoping and expecting to love, and they surprised me because I didn't connect with them in the way that I wanted to. I just had some wild and weird reads, actually, in January. It was a whole experience, so let's dive into the 11 books that I read in January. And of course, I read Onyx Storm in January, so you're going to be getting all of my thoughts on that too. This is what we're working with, so let's dive into all of my thoughts. After non-stop banging on about this book to you guys and telling you how much I hoped I was going to love it, that I felt like it was me coded, that I felt like I was in for a good time, and then consistently managing to put it off, I finally picked it up in January. And when I did get around to picking it up, I'd actually seen some mixed opinions and reviews from people who have got a similar taste to me, so I was also a little bit nervous. But what I can tell you is that this book did not disappoint. My first read of 2025 was a 5-star read. Darkly divine is the essence of this book, and I ate it up. It is covered from cover to cover with secrets and mystery, and it is filled to the brim with secret societies, dark academia, and of course vampires. And then you top all that off with a beautifully written prose. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This book for me just had it all. Had it all. I think if I connect with the writing, you already have done the groundwork. You've already set the foundation. If I'm struggling to connect with the writing, then you're kind of losing me a little bit there. And immediately I loved the writing so much. And it was a fresh take on vampires. It was new to anything that I'd read before, and it felt like a breath of fresh air. Do I think this will be everybody's cup of tea? No. No, I don't. But was it my cup of tea? Yeah. Yeah, it was. And a little kind of summary of this book is that orphaned heiress Kidan finds her sister missing, June, and she believes that this elite university is responsible, and she ends up enrolling, and her mission is to discover where her sister is, if she's alive, what's happened to her. Kidan is convinced that a vampire is the one who stole her, and that very same vampire is not only bound to her family, but she's also forced to live with him too. And their paths and the book proceed from there. So good. So good. Okay, next up I want to talk about A Sea of Unspoken Things by Adrienne Young. If you are new to this channel and you don't know anything about me or my favourite authors, Adrienne Young is one of my all-time favourite authors. I love The Unmaking of June Farrow so much, one of my all-time favourite reads. That book can do no wrong. And I was lucky enough to receive an advanced read copy of A Sea of Unspoken Things, and I was so excited. If you have read Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young, this really reminded me of that book. And it's kind of a book of 2 halves. The first half is definitely slower, and then everything ramps up in the second half like there's no tomorrow. And Adrienne really knows how to write a book that keeps you on the edge of your seat and that gives you chills. This book gave me chills in abundance. And I personally think the previous books that I've read of Adrienne's have been a blend of genres and have featured magical realism / light fantasy in those books. This doesn't really have any of that. It doesn't have the light fantasy, and if you are counting the tiny bit it does have, it's very minuscule. So this is more of a murder mystery thriller read, I would say. And I did find myself kind of missing that magical realism kind of element, because she does it in such a unique, beautiful way that I was looking for that. I actively look for that with her books. So I missed that element slightly with this book, but I did think that it dealt with grief and loss beautifully and emphasised how different that journey can be for each of us individually, but also shared collectively too, and what that looks like. And this is a story about twins. One of the twins passes away. The other twin is left reeling and doesn't quite believe the circumstances of the twins passing is correct. She thinks something else is happening. She goes back home to the place of the passing and she uncovers secrets as she goes. That's kind of where the story leads you from, and I don't need to say much more than that. It's a very short book, so I don't want to give too much away, but if you're looking for a murder mystery thriller kind of book that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat, give you chills, it's going to give you an atmospheric kind of read, this is it. Now, this next book, Split or Swallow, I don't even know where to start with this one with you guys. I was so intrigued by this one. I've seen so many people talk about it and I was like, no, I need to know more. I need to read this for myself and see what kind of experience we're talking about here. This was the wildest ride of my entire life. The wildest. First things first, it's literally spice on steroids. Our main characters, they be putting in overtime in the bedroom. That is for sure. Morning, noon, night, no rest, no sleep, we go again. That's the vibe. Some of the decisions that the female main character was making, I was like, if that's what you want, and that's actually the decision you're making for yourself, I fully support that and back that 100%. But I don't know that I believe that that's what you want. That was kind of where my head was at. Initially, I was like, okay, the FMC was insufferable at points, but now I've had a chance to sit and think about it. I was like, no, actually, the FMC was insufferable for quite a lot of the book. One minute, she was super strong in her convictions, she was determined, she wasn't going to be pushed around by nobody. And I'm like, yes, get it, girl. But then the next, she would be so easily swayed by one of the male main characters. I would be like, but where's that backbone gone? Where's that strength? Where's that like independence and stubbornness gone that you had a minute ago? The character just wasn't quite adding up. One of the main male characters as well, Caspian, he wasn't for me. I actually found him to be so manipulative in everything that he did. He was a walking, talking red flag and not in the good, hot kind of way. He kind of gave me the ick. Don't get me wrong, it's fast-paced, hella wild, and has an insane plot which you can't help but enjoy. There wasn't a lot that I loved about it. I can see why people love it, but for me, I wasn't in love with it. My Paper Dreams book club book of the month was The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. I was intimidated before I started this book. I got 200 pages in and I was still intimidated by this book. This book is not beginner friendly is my first point. It took me a long time to get into this. I didn't connect with it instantly. It wasn't like an instant hit for me. And I was struggling to understand the world and the concept and how things were pronounced and everything in my head. And so I was like, do you know what? I am gonna listen to this on audio and see how we go. So I listened to it on audio and it changed the game. So if, like me, you are really wanting to read this but you're struggling a little bit, I cannot recommend the audiobook enough. I kept like jumping in and out of the audio and the physical book and the audio and the physical book, and that seemed to really, really work for me. It's also quite a hard one to explain what the actual concept of this book is about. It's quite complex in its entirety, to be honest, and it's one of those ones that you just kind of have to pick up and see how you go. If you're wanting a high fantasy kind of read, then this is for you, especially if you're wanting something that is heart-achingly, devastatingly beautiful and is going to give you emotional devastation. You go on some major character development with this book, and that for me is one of the shining stars, and a huge, gigantic emotional journey as well. Like, emotionally, the roller coaster is really roller coastering. And I also love how ML has this way of planting these Easter eggs, small moments, and then you get to later on in the book and you realize how it relates back to that small moment in this huge aha punch to the gut. That is what she does, and she does it brilliantly. This story is so poignant and empowering and moving and is unlike anything I've ever read before. Learning about the world and the language and everything did challenge me, but it challenged me in a really good way, in a way that I enjoyed and that was definitely worth it for me. And so this is the kind of read that's a one-of-a-kind kind of read, and the kind of read that will stay with you forever. I carried on my dark romance journey with God of Pain by Irina Kent. I didn't expect to love these two main characters as much as I did. This one follows Cretan and Annika, and they are obviously in the first book. And from the first book, I didn't love them. They weren't my favourites. I wasn't like, I really want to know more about you. I wasn't bothered. And so when I knew that book 2 was about those two, I was like, don't know how I'm going to find this one. And it really took me by surprise. Obviously it goes without saying this is dark romance, so do check the triggers before reading. But the Legacy of God series so far, I've read the first 2 books and they have been amazing. amazing. I've loved them so much, and it's made me have a whole new thought process, interpretation, that whole kind of thing on dark romance, and it's made me realize that actually maybe dark romance is for me, because the first book was a hit, the second book was a hit. I actually think there's a bit more of a plot to this one than the first one, but the plot was definitely plotting, the twists were twisting, and the dark romance was dark romancing, that's for sure. Yeah, loved. Now this next one, I'm a touch nervous to talk about, because fully expected to love this book. Fully expected to love it. Have seen people who've got the exact same taste as me love, rant and rave about this book. And so I just really thought we were going to be a match made in heaven. And sadly, we were not. I couldn't connect with the plot and with the characters and the world in the way that I wanted and hoped to. I just felt disconnected the entire time. And also, I kept waiting for them to leave the bloody forest, and they just never did. The entire book is basically in the forest, and I'm like, can we move on? Can we move somewhere new? Can we experience a different part of this world? No, we couldn't, and it drove me wild. I can so see why people love this. It is beautifully written, plot driven, with a sprinkle of romance. I just didn't buy into it all in the way that I wanted. I didn't connect to it in the way that I wanted. So I would recommend this to certain people depending on what you're looking for, but for me, this was a little bit of a miss. Another one that I'm a little bit nervous to talk about is Nocticadia. Everybody that I know and trust loves this book and has really good things to say. So I felt like I was in good company. I felt like I was in for a good time. Now, I loved the Dark Academia. I loved even more Dr. Death. Bramwell, I will never have enough Bramwell in my life. He can do no wrong. That man carries this book, and I love every single thing about him. However, the kind of plot and concept of this is about worms / parasites, and I gotta say, guys, the worms are not my cup of tea. They're not my cup of tea. I just couldn't. It was weirding me out. I don't know. It just was giving me the ick, and I was like, I don't love this. I don't love this. And so that's the only reason I didn't love this like I thought I would. I gave it 3.75 stars. I did enjoy it, but just not to the level that I wanted to, because I was so weirded out by the worms. It was too much. It just wasn't for me. But you know what was for me? Onyx Storm, 5 stars. I said what I said. I've seen very mixed things about this book. I've seen people really not enjoy it. This, by the way, I probably should say is coming from someone who really enjoyed Iron Flame. Iron Flame gets a bad rap, but I love that book. I love this book. I love them all three of that series. Can do no wrong. I obviously don't want to spoil this for anybody, so I'm gonna keep this very much spoiler free. Xaden in this book is my favourite Xaden of all time ever. I am down bad for Onyx Storm Xaden. Onyx Storm Xaden is a different league, a different level. I don't even know how to begin to tell you guys what he is in this book. Berate me with him. That's all I gotta say. And also, since finishing and reading, I immediately wanted to stare at a wall. I immediately was like, what do I do with myself now? How do I move on after this book? I don't know. I don't know who I am anymore. And I had so many theories spiraling in my brain after I read this, and I cannot wait for book 4. Cannot wait. I needed a little palette cleanser after Onyx Storm, so I picked up Watch Your Mouth by Candy Steiner. The first book for me, I didn't love. This book, I really enjoyed a lot more than the first book. I loved these two together. They're very cute, very sweet. Their whole dynamic, there's a bit of an age gap happening. I thought they worked really well together. The whole book kind of takes place on a road trip, and it immediately made me want to go on a road trip. I was like, sign me up. I need to go on a road trip like it was yesterday. Enjoyed that whole concept of seeing a romance on a road trip. I thought that was really cool. They're both adventurous and both like very much spontaneous, seize the moment kind of people, and they complement each other so well. I enjoyed this. If you're looking for a sweet but spicy, easy to read romance kind of palette cleanser, then yeah. This I listened to on audio, and it was a bit of a strange one because I just couldn't connect to the main characters at all. I felt so, maybe this is just a bit of a theme for January, to be honest, because now I listen to myself talk, I'm thinking, Luce, you said that about other books this month, but I really need to be able to connect and resonate with the characters, and if I can't do that, then you've kind of lost me a little bit. And that's how I felt about this book. It had a lot of promise. It's full of glamour, full of secrets, full of heartache. I loved how it dealt with the bonds of sisterhood and the bonds between families and how that whole dynamic develops through the pages of this book. I enjoyed. And I do think that it is a book about parental trauma and dealing with your past and how that impacts your future. That was really interesting, but I couldn't connect to it on any kind of personal, deeper level. It's just left me feeling a little bit underwhelmed, undersatisfied. Now, Lilac had my head in a little bit of a spin because I read this so quick, and typically when I read a book really quickly, it's because I'm enjoying it. That's normally a really good sign. And I enjoyed the world. It's very magical, very whimsical. The concept is unique, and I found that all to be really refreshing and really, really captivating. However, again, the same kind of theme, and maybe it's a me problem, but the relationships in this felt very one-dimensional. I didn't feel the tension. I didn't feel the chemistry like I wanted to. It had the potential there for it. If it had just delved in a little bit deeper, I felt like it was missing that for me. Overall, I enjoyed this and I did have a good time with it, but it kind of left me like, I don't know whether I want to carry on. I'm not sure whether it's worth investing my time in, because what I've seen from this series is that the second book, Nightbane, is the best in the series, and then I haven't seen very good things about the third book. And then now apparently we've got 2 more books coming. So I'd love some advice if anybody's read this series. Should I carry on with it? Is it worth carrying on? Is the third book actually really good? Let me know in the comments, because I don't really know how I feel about this one. And then this isn't included in the 11 because I didn't finish it, but I did also start at the end of the month, Beyond the Aching Door. And this was the pick from one of the 12 creators. And this is urban fantasy. I am so far about 35% of the way through. The plot has got me really intrigued. I've not read anything like this before, and it's all about Kelpies and the Unseelie Court and the Fae King, set in a modern urban America. We've got an older female main character. She's 30, and I love that so much. I just have no idea where the story is gonna go. I can't see what's gonna happen. I'm like, I don't know where this is going here. Very intrigued to see how I find that. I should be finishing that up soon. Obviously, you'll get all of my thoughts on that in next month's video when I do next month's wrap up. So overall, January was a really great start to the year. We had some exceptional 5-star reads in there that I absolutely love. And I'm excited to see what February holds, because the lineup for February has me bowled over. I am so excited. So excited to get to some of these books. In fact, I'm so excited to get to every single one of these books. Now, before we dive into the books that I've chosen for my TBR, I thought we could make a little TBR jar. So I've written down the 12 books from the 12 creators, obviously minus 1 because I've already started Beyond the Aching Door in January. So these are the 11 I've got left to read. I need one for February. Gonna pop them in a little dish, and we're gonna pull one out and see what this month's book is gonna be from this list. That is all of the options for February. I'm gonna have a little dive in. Okay. Let's see what we've got. The Ritual by Chantal Tessier is this month's pick. This is from Hannah. I think we're in for a really good time. Also intrigued to see whether the Legacy of God series is a fluke. Is that just a one-time thing that I'm enjoying and that's the only kind of dark romance I'm going to enjoy, or am I going to actually be a dark romance girly? This, I think, is going to be the decider. So obviously, first book on the list is The Ritual by Chantal Tessier. What a way to kickstart the TBR. I think The Ritual is all about these powerful men who attend this university and they exchange power for violence or that kind of thing. And in their senior year, they are allowed one chosen one. And that's the kind of premise of the story. And I can't bloody wait to see what's in store for me with that book. Now, the first book for February that I am going to be reaching for, and I'm so excited about, is The Crimson Moth. It's been a long time coming, and I can't wait. I am going in blind to this. I've heard that that's the best way to do it, to have the best kind of experience, so that's what I plan on doing. But all I know is basically that it's like Witcher's slow burn, I think, and the banter's amazing too. And what more could you want? What more could you want? It feels Lucy coded. Feels like I'm gonna love it and have the best time. And I'm gonna read this and immediately read the second part when it comes out in February, The Rebel Witch. So we're gonna do The Crimson Moth, The Rebel Witch, back to back, binge it in its entirety. And I just feel like I'm in for such a fantastic fantastic adventure with this duology. I can't wait. I really truly can't wait. I'm finally gonna start An Ember in the Ashes. I'm doing it, guys. We're going all in. We're gonna be diving into this in February, and I just feel, I'm really hoping that it's gonna give me that Throne of Glass kind of feeling, but in a different way. I know it's not gonna be the same. Nothing will ever be the same as Throne of Glass. Nothing will ever compare for me, I don't think. But An Ember in the Ashes, I feel like has the potential to be a whole new obsession for me. I can't wait. The books also aren't very big either, which I kind of love. It says on the back, an orphan fighting for her family, a soldier searching for his freedom, a story burning to be told. Vow your blood and body to the Empire, keep your heart for yourself. Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready, and I am thrilled at the thought of starting this. So can't wait to tell you guys how I got on. Following on from that amazing initial lineup, we've also got A Fate Forged in Fire by Hazel McBride. This doesn't actually come out till May. I have been blessed by the book gods, truly, 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 and I have an advanced reader copy of this, and I plan on reading it immediately. I can't wait. It's dragons. This basically follows our female main character, who is a powerful blacksmith, and she plans to be the first queen in centuries, but in order to do that, she has to overthrow the corrupt powers, and while she's doing that, she has to fight her desire for her dragon riding adversary. I need to read this like I need air. That's how I feel about this book. What is she willing to sacrifice to claim her throne? I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. Over on Fable with my book club Paper Dreams, this month we have got a romantasy standalone as our choice, and it's Amid Clouds and Bones by Ella Fields. I read The Deadly Divine Duet last year by Ella Fields and loved it so much. I immediately was like, I need to read more of Ella's books. And this is a romantasy standalone, which in itself is such a unique kind of concept. Do not see a lot of those. So I'm intrigued to see what we have got in store with this book. But actually the things that I've heard have been really good about it, and so I'm thinking it's going to be like a little romantasy, almost like a palate cleanser. I'm like, okay, give it to me. Give it to me. And then the final two on my TBR are romance palate cleansers. The first is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I have not dived into any of Ali Hazelwood's before. I think this is supposed to be a STEM romance, and the people that love Ali Hazelwood love her, but then some people do not love her. So I feel as though it's like you're either a big Ali fan or you're not, and I don't know which side of the pond I'm going to be on, but I feel like there's potential for me to be an Ali kind of girl. I've never read STEM romance either, so I'm excited to see how I get on, but I feel like this is going to give me all of the romance kind of vibes for February and see what kind of experience I have with my first Ali Hazelwood book. And then finally, we have got Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. Heard amazing things about this. Heard Christina Lauren is an absolutely 10/10 romance author. I am excited. I actually didn't realise this was the book that I was. It has an alternative cover, which looks like this, that I've seen everywhere. And then my cover looks like this, which I didn't realise it was the same book. So I'm like, oh, that's the book that everyone's been talking about. It had its moment last year at some point. But also what's wild is that Sarah J. Maas has quoted on the back, she's put, Christina Lauren's books have a place of honour on my bookshelf. And I cannot tell you how excited that makes me to read this. So I think this might be a little standout romance read. And that's the lineup. That is the lineup for February. And I'm so excited. All of those books sound amazing. And normally, yeah, all the books sound really good, but those ones in particular sound top tier. So that's everything for this week's video. That's my January reading wrap up and my February TBR done. I've absolutely loved sharing all of my thoughts with you guys on those books, and I can't wait to see if the February TBR lives up to the hype in my head. Fingers crossed. But I hope you have an absolutely wonderful week, and as always, I will see you at the next one.